Hello, it's Amy with Just a Little Ink. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and I'd love to share with you today a really quick and simple card that uses the leftovers from when you use the die cuts. So I'm going to run through, I'm using our Splendid Stems dies. I recently did a stamp club where we had cut a couple different dies using this particular leaf. And what was left over, I found on my desk. And that's what we're creating all of this from. So I'm pulling out again my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. I use it a lot on my videos. It's handy on my desk all the time. So I've got a piece of our brushed metallic cardstock. I ran out of our copper sheets, which happen to be on weekly deals through Wednesday of this week. So I believe that is through the 27th of September. You can get a little bit of a discount on those copper foil sheets. But I'm using some of our brushed metallic cardstock. This is a piece that's 2.5 by 3. And I'm going to cut from the center of it this particular die. And I have added on the back some of our adhesive sheets just so that it's sticky already on the back side. It's not so important for the piece we're going to use, but it does make a difference for the little piece that will come out of it. So this particular piece, that does make a difference. So I'm going to lay this on here. I need to make sure that I've got a little bit of an overlap and I have more than I need, but that's all right. I'm going to run it through. So how many times do you cut a piece? I'm going to set this out of the way. How many times do you cut your piece you want? So maybe what you're wanting, I'm going to set these out of the way. You want this piece, like I showed you before. I'll pull this off. And what you're left with, get all those little pieces, sometimes easier said than done. There we go. I've got some backing on the back. So you have this piece you wanted, and then you're left with this piece. What do you do with this? I called it the relief. Not sure. So this is what I'm going to use in our card today. Simple, simple. I use this to do thank you notes this week for my club ladies. So I need a leather piece of basic white cardstock using a scrap that's about 1 3/4 inch by 3 3/4 inch. I need a half a sheet of our basic white thick cardstock, 5.5 by 8.5, and scored at 4 1/4. And then I want a piece of designer series paper. I'm having to use the Splendid Day 12 by 12 specialty paper. It has a metallic on one side and then a muted on the other side. And I want this soft seafoam leaf pattern. I cut this at 4 1/4 by 5.5 because I want it to completely cover the front. And then again, my piece of either foil or in this case, metallic cardstock that is at 2.5 by 3 inches. So we're going to set this here. To make my greeting, I'm using the Simply Succulent stamp set, and I'm going to use this You Make the Ordinary Extraordinary, as well as, let me pull out from the inside the die set. It has a really pretty die that comes with this particular set. And so what I'm going to do is stamp first and then cut. For me, that works better. You could go either way. So I'm going to ink up the stamp, and I'm going to use my Tuxedo Black Memento ink just because I want a simple black greeting. Nothing fancy here. Stamp it, and if I'm not quite straight, it's okay. And then I'm going to lay my die on the top here. Make sure I've got my spacing about how I want it. I'm going to grab, again, my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So little pieces of washi. And grab that. So grab my plates. Again, my number 1 on the bottom, a number 2, and then another number 2 on top with about 1/4 of an inch overlap. I'm going to run it through. And we're going to have everything we need to make this simple card. So any punched shape would work for this as well. I just happen to really like the greeting and the die set that went with it. So to assemble, super simple, quick, fold in half along that score line, 4 1/4 inch score line. Grab out my trusty bone folder, score it up. Then I'm going to use some of our liquid glue, our multi-purpose liquid glue. I know you're probably thinking, why am I covering up such a pretty piece? But it will make sense here in a minute. Don't hoard all this beautiful paper. It is worth using, and the back sides of all of these have a really pretty tiny print that work great for so many different things. So I encourage you to use this beautiful paper, both sides. So I'm going to pull it up. The liquid glue gives you a little more wiggle. It doesn't dry quite as fast. And so you have time to kind of line things up. And that's why I like using it when I'm doing a lot of coverage. Like so. Thank you so much in advance for liking and sharing, for commenting, and oh, thank you so much for subscribing. I've got a little bit of an edge actually on both sides. So I'm going to do just a teeny bit of trimming with my paper snips. I want to do it on this side so I'm not cutting too much. Now come along, take care of that extra little bit. Better to have too much than to not have enough on here. Just a sliver on this side bigger. There we go. Get this out of the way. So what I found was, I'm going to pull this backing off. It makes it already sticky. And this one had a number of pieces, which makes it a little challenging, but fun all at the same. So I'll pull off these other 2 pieces and one more. Well, I thought one more. It's going to have a few more here. All right. Little piece in the center here. And well, let's go from this end. There we go. That'll take care of all those little pieces of paper. So what I found was when I laid it out, how cute this looked when I just took this piece, kind of did it at an angle, smooth it out. Then I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of my greeting. I just need a couple, doesn't need a lot. Then I'm going to place it on the front. And it made for a beautiful thank you note to me, for me to be able to send to customers. And so for you, maybe you got a really neat birthday gift, but whatever case, it's a great quick card. You could make this be a happy birthday. But use those pieces that are left over. So thanks again for joining me. Thanks for subscribing, for clicking on that little bell so that you get notified every time I have a new video. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.